prayer. Please take your seats. Thank you. Linda?
Rise to pray. Dear God of love, we place in your loving arms the thousands of innocent lives that were lost on that unforgettable morning of September 11th, 2001. We also remember the courage of the countless men and women who put their lives at risk in order to rescue the afflicted. Help us to continue to work for a world free of hatred, violence, and ignorance. May terrorism in all its forms disappear from the face of the earth. Lord, please watch over this group of patriots and guide us to do all we can to protect our loved ones and our liberties. We all know there is evil in the world, and with your help we can stop some that threaten us. Bless each and every person here today and fill their hearts with the love of God. Thank you for our United States Constitution and for the wise men that signed it on the day of September 17th, 1787. Let us all try to honor this sacred document and especially keep our legislators mindful of the terms of the Constitution. Please help them and us always hear your commands and obey them. We thank you for all our blessings. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Linda. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. We have an overpacked agenda. We did strip some things at the beginning part of the program, so we would have the maximum amount of time for the second half of the program, which is our candidates time. BCP business, I'm going to keep to a minimum. You can buy raffle tickets, 50-50 raffle tickets. We will have the drawing at the end. You can also purchase gun raffle tickets. It's a Henry Golden Boy rifle. Good-looking rifle. You have a chance of winning that, or merchandise equivalent, or $400 cash. Only $10 a ticket. You do not have to be present. Now, folks, we sell the raffle tickets to help offset some of our costs. The only revenue we have is what happens at these meetings. So we appreciate any generosity in purchasing the tickets and so forth. Thank you very much. Oh, speaking of thank you, for those of you that were at Attorney Simon Grill's presentation on Saturday, I thank you so very much. That was fantastic. He gave a presentation on the Castle Doctrine, Stand Your Ground, and Classic Self-Defense. I apologize that we're all squeezed into a small room with 60. We had to turn some people away, but it certainly was great and worthwhile. Matter of fact, it was supposed to be a little less than a 3-hour class. I was there for 4.5 hours, and Simon had so many other videos that he could have explained to us as well. It was fantastic. Now, I hope that some of you take advantage of his next class. We do have some sign-up sheets here. You can look for those, contact Simon. It certainly would be worth your effort. Oh, thank yous also. I want to thank Judy Pelka, Alan McMinn, and Linda Brancadora for their help in putting that event together. A lot of work, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails and phone calls again and again and again, as well as keeping the records, advertising, setting up the venue, and so forth. So thank you guys very much. Really appreciate it. Now, BCP Board elections. Per the bylaws, I need to read the following. The third Thursday in September, at our general meeting, the election committee shall announce that nominations will be open from the first day in October to October 31st. Nominations will be accepted in writing, email, or U.S. mail to the chairman of the election committee and posted promptly on the BCP website. It is the responsibility of the nominating entry to ensure that their intent is communicated to the election committee and shall have their name and email available to be displayed on the BCP website. Self-nominations are permitted. Folks, we need your help. I know you heard me say this before, but we need your help. We have 13 board positions. 6 of those are vacant. Of the remaining 7, several of those are very limited duty because of health issues, business issues, and other commitments. So we certainly hope, I'd like to see at least 6 of you sign up. Another announcement I want to make, I don't see, no, not here. School property tax nomination. Hot item, it's been talked about every week. Friends of ours usually comes to the meeting here. Tom Hewitt with Scott Realty. They are putting on a town hall October 22nd. There's various bills out there, school property tax elimination. There's probably 8 or 10. I truthfully do not know which bill I support at the moment. I will support whatever bill eliminates school property tax, and I feel we get over the finish line. So I appreciate if you would support Tom. Linda and I will be there. Some of the other patrons will be there. Many of the representatives and senators will be there. You got a first-hand chance to ask questions and get some answers. Last month, I'm going to repeat a couple of things. Last month, you heard me explain why additional gun control laws are not going to work. We'll accomplish very little. We have over 20,000 gun control laws on the books. We have many of those that are not being enforced. If you would research the mass shootings, you will see that, really? Okay. You will, scared me. You will see that some of those definitely could have been prevented. We need to enforce the existing laws that we have on the books. There are some pet peeves of mine. One of them is gun-free zones. I don't know who really thought of this, but to me, if I was a bad guy, that's where I would go. Ask yourself a question. If you are crazy out there, want to kill as many people as possible, would you go to a gun-free zone like a school? Or would you go to an NRA banquet? Where would you go? And why do you choose that answer? Give that some thought. What I'm getting to is that D.C. and Harrisburg are at it again. There's going to be hearings on, well, in D.C. they're started now, I believe, already, but in Harrisburg on September 24th and September 25th, Senator Lisa Baker is going to be having hearings on more gun control legislation. Folks, what happens is that there's a tragedy happens out there. So the public wants immediate solutions. Not going to happen. However, our legislators are more than happy to oblige the public. They're more than happy to pass other laws and so forth. These are all feel-good legislation. They know that it's not going to do any good. The only thing it does is erode our liberties for a false sense of security. We can't have that. The bad guys out there are going to be bad guys. They're going to do their bad thing. When they see this stuff going on, what do you think? They're clapping. They're hoping more and more things get passed. So I hope some of you, if you can't get to the hearing, at least make telephone calls or faxes, whatever. Just let them know that enough is enough, and also remind them of the oath that they took. And remind them of Article 1, Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. The last four words, folks, all of you should know it. Shall not be questioned. Very simple, very, very simple. Okay, 30 seconds, Bruce? Okay. Couple quick comments. Let's see. Inoculate your kids against socialism by having them clean the bathroom, Pay them $10. Take away $7 and give it to their siblings who didn't help. Socialism won't seem so attractive then. And finally, the main vice of capitalism is the uneven distribution of prosperity. The main vice of socialism is the even distribution of poverty. Which do you want? Folks, one final thing. Otto is here with Lehigh Valley Commentator, brings these every month at a meeting. A lot of good information here. Please stop and pick them up. Okay, we're going to move on to our main speaker. Folks, I heard J.R. McGee speak some months ago, the first time. Really impressed me. Check him out on the internet. Fantastic guy. I'm just going to read here. He's going to give us an update on some history of North Korea, Iran, China, and Russia. How can you talk about all that stuff? I think he's going to concentrate maybe on Iran. But just to give you a little bit of an idea of who he is. JR is the founder and CEO of the Extreme Leadership Group. Also, as program director at Top Gun ranges worldwide, JR specialized in operations, training, and development of fighter pilots, special forces, combat field engineering, and providing operational supports to intelligence and counterintelligence operations around the world. Well, I don't know how I can possibly do all that. JR, come on up, buddy. Folks, let's give a big round of applause for J.R. McGee.
Yeah, I promise you I won't stand behind the podium. Good evening. It's really a privilege to be here tonight in the company of people who love this country, people who share my values, and I believe people who would do whatever it takes to defend liberty. Those are incredibly important to me. As he said, I spent 33 years training SEALs in Delta in counterterrorism, training fighter pilots. So I spent my life working with ultra-high performance teams doing things that a lot of people think are impossible. But most of all, I did a lot of work in intelligence. I was a program manager of 7 major intelligence programs. In the 1970s, I was on a classified program where I lived with 7 Iranian Air Force officers for 13 and a half months before the Shah fell. They were evacuated back to Iran 2 days after the Ayatollah Khomeini took office, where they were immediately beheaded. That affected me a great deal. And then in my professional career, I was responsible for the Iranian area of operations for over 19 years. So I've got some insight into what's going on with Iran. And the big news right now was the attack on the Saudi Arabian oil fields. They knocked out better than 50% of the capacity of the largest refinery in the world. This was a major attack in a very concentrated arena that was designed to get people's attention. Let me help explain some of the things that are going on behind the scenes, because there's a lot of this you will not hear in the news media for a lot of different reasons. You have to go back. In Russia developed cruise missiles at the same time that the United States was developing cruise missiles. And one in particular was the KH-55. It was also, the NATO name for that was the AS-15 Kent. That was a very capable cruise missile. It has a range of about 1,350 miles. It can carry a 1,000-pound conventional warhead or a 200-kiloton nuclear warhead. This is a very serious missile. The Russians transferred a lot of these to the Ukraine in the 1980s and 1990s. After the wall fell in 2004, the Ukraine needed money. And they didn't think that they needed a lot of their military equipment. So what happened is they sold a lot of these cruise missiles to Iran. They sold them with no nuclear warheads, or it would have been a much bigger deal. But they transferred a large number of these sophisticated cruise missiles to Iran. Iran's had those long enough, they reverse engineered them, and they began to develop their own in-house version of this. Now, where this becomes important, do you remember a few months back where the Iranians attacked 2 oil container ships? They used 2 of these cruise missiles with no warhead whatsoever. That was kind of unusual. The thing about these particular cruise missiles is they've got a very sophisticated guidance package on them, and they're accurate to within plus or minus 4 feet. Think about this. They can hit a target plus or minus 4 feet from 1,300 miles away. They hit both of these oil container ships in a very specific location, designed to cause the least amount of damage with no warhead, and the missile penetrated the hull but retained most of the missile so that it could be identified. They did this deliberately so that Saudi Arabia and the United States and Israel would know they not only had these systems, they were willing to use them. Less than 2 weeks later, they used 2 more KH-55s against Saudi Arabia. They attacked a commercial airport in Saudi Arabia. One missile hit the control tower and completely destroyed the control tower, and the other one hit the operations building. They put the airport out of commission for several days. Think about this for a second. What do you think would happen if someone attacked the control tower and the operations buildings at the Philadelphia airport? What kind of chaos do you think that would cause here? That caused that kind of chaos. It wasn't the Riyadh airport, but it was an airport. It was the 3rd largest airport in Saudi Arabia. Again, it was sent as a message. These particular 2 missiles were sent from Yemen by the Houthi rebels. The Houthi rebels are supported by Iran and their proxies in their war against Saudi Arabia. Now, where all of this comes into play is Iran left signals and breadcrumbs that gave the initial indication that the Houthi rebels had sent 12 of these missiles against the Saudi Arabian oil fields from Yemen. That wasn't what happened. What we know for a fact is that they sent a combination of drone glide bombs and cruise missiles. The glide bombs came out of Iraq. You may remember Iraq. We used to be there. The Iranians are heavily invested in Iraq now. They've got multiple bases in Iraq, and they're now using that as a basis of operations to attack both Saudi Arabia and Israel with some sophisticated drones that carry bombs. That's a serious issue. The Israelis are trying to figure out exactly how to deal with that situation right now. The KH-55s came directly from Iran. We know exactly where they were launched from. This was a direct attack from Iran against the major commercial facility in Saudi Arabia. This was a direct attack on the economy and the political leadership and the military leadership of Saudi Arabia. Mike Pompeo, our Secretary of State, said it as concisely and clearly as anyone that I know of could have said it. I was very proud of Mike. And I used to work with Mike many years ago when he was a commander for an intelligence battalion. He's a very good man. I don't know how much you know about Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He is a real deal. I respect him a great deal. He said, quote, "This is an act of war," unquote. I don't know how you get much clearer than that. And here's the issue. Iran wants a war. The sanctions that President Trump has placed on Iran have been extremely effective, far more effective than what you're hearing about from the news. They've crippled the Iranian economy. It's just been reported that 13 of the 14 pension funds in Iran that fund the military, the government, and their social systems are bankrupt. They can't pay the pensions. Well, that makes a lot of people unhappy. It's worse than that. they're days away from not being able to make paychecks. If you can't make payroll to the government, you can't keep people happy. If you can't keep the military happy, you can't keep the government in power. The Iranian government is facing a tremendous crisis right now. Way put enormous pressure on the very people that have been responsible for killing American soldiers and American civilians since the 1970s. That I think this is a wonderful thing. And he's done it in a way that has not used the military heretofore. Iran wants a war. They want a war economically. They cannot afford for this to continue much longer. They thought that they could wait him out. Almost every American president since the 1970s, from Jimmy Carter forward, has given in to the Iranians and given them exactly what they want. They've learned to expect that. They've learned that that's the status quo. They've learned that American politicians are extremely good, bluff and bluster, and they fold like a cheap suit. That's Democrats and Republicans. I don't care which side. I'm going to call it like it is. There's been no one with the backbone to stand up to these people until President Trump. He's a cat of a different color. He is an individual that doesn't usually bluff very much. He usually bites more than he bluffs. No one has expected that. Now, I'll be very honest with you. President Trump was not my first choice. Wasn't my second choice. Wasn't my third choice. I cringe sometimes when I hear him talk. I shudder every now and then when I read some of his tweets. But I love what he has accomplished. President Donald J. Trump has gotten more done in 2.5 years than the last 3 presidents combined, Republican or Democrat. That's just a fact. You cannot have a list that's not more than 3 pages long of the things that he's gotten done, and he's gotten it done in the face of overwhelming resistance from all sides. The Democrats have completely lost their minds. The rhinos have done nothing but try to find ways to maintain the status quo while talking out of both sides of their mouth. And the news media has completely lost all credibility and all reputation. And they've willingly given that away out of pure hatred. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I don't think they're even thinking about long-term what this is going to do to the news media. And it's pretty much universal. There are some news media that are better than others, but there are none of them that you can truly trust with everything. I tend to read every morning when I wake up. I get up very early, and I've got about 15 to 16 different news sites that I go to get my information, because I don't trust any one. I've got 2 or 3 intelligence sites that I go to, and I usually make phone calls to friends. I try to be very informed every morning when I wake up, and I usually spend the last hour and a half before I go to bed. I normally get up, I typically work a 16, 18-hour day, 6.5 days a week. And I usually devote 2.5 to 4 hours a day trying to keep up with exactly what's going on. It's very difficult. Things right now, in the military we would refer to this as things are moving at the speed of stink. Stink moves really quick. It is very hard to keep up with what all's going on. It doesn't matter whether you're following Russia, whether you're following China, whether you're following North Korea, whether you're following Iran, whether you're following Israel, whether you're paying attention to Jordan, whether you're paying attention to Egypt. Right now, they're all linked, and Turkey is playing a very critical role. Turkey's been an American ally for many years, at least since the mid-1980s. In fact, 3 of my programs had locations somewhere in Turkey because Turkey shares the border with Russia. I spent a lot of time in Turkey. I have a lot of people that I've worked that work for me that spent a lot of time in Turkey. Turkey's been a reliable ally, a trusted ally. Turkey is now fully allied with Russia. In fact, we're trying to hang on to Incirlik Air Base, where we keep a lot of our nuclear weapon systems and some of our forward-based fighter, tanker, and support aircraft. I don't think we're going to be here much longer. Turkey is moving very, very quickly to align themselves with Syria, of all places. And they're trying to form an alliance with Russia because they've actively decided to move away from NATO. And the fact that we just canceled them out of the Joint Strike Fighter F-35 program seals the deal. When they purchased the S-400 system, now my background, I'm an electronics engineer with a specialty in radar. I started all this stuff by borrowing Russian radars. I know we're going to return them. We don't if you're stealing. And I led the team to reverse engineer these Russian radars, so I know a lot about those. The S-400 radar system that Turkey purchased is an extremely sophisticated, highly capable air defense system. It's dangerous. It's dangerous against almost everything that flies. Is it invincible? No. But it will bite you. It will bite you when you least expect it. There's no sense in sleeping with a rattlesnake. So we decided we were not going to participate with Turkey with our most sophisticated fighter jet. At the same time, they were purchasing and using a radar that's designed to defeat that jet. Doesn't make any sense strategically, doesn't make any sense tactically, doesn't make any sense politically, doesn't make any sense economically. Other than that, it might be a good idea. You tie this together with the fact that Iran and Syria are very tightly joined together. Now you've got Turkey. Hezbollah is fully invested in Lebanon. You've got the entire northern corridor over Israel now that is in one big alliance. They're working very carefully, very jointly, and they're working in coordination. You've got Hezbollah in Lebanon and now Syria. You've got Iran in Syria and Lebanon and Iraq. This is a dangerous situation. And now you've got Iran working with Yemen, which is on the southern border of Saudi Arabia. And Jordan is beginning to feel a great deal of pressure from both Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Iran. Jordan is trying to maintain a strong alliance with the West. They're trying to maintain an alliance with the United States. We've been a great ally with Jordan for a long time. The king of Jordan married an American lady. You may be aware of that. He was educated in America. King Hussein is a strong believer in the United States. With that being said, he is under the greatest pressure he's ever been under right now to shift and change. His government is the minority of the people in Jordan. A lot of people don't realize that. The Hashemite kingdom is about 15% of the population of Jordan, yet they're the rulers. It's hard to maintain a coalition when you've only got 15% of the population. That puts him under a tremendous amount of pressure. If Jordan falls, Israel will be completely surrounded by people who are trying to take her down. Now, I don't want to get into a big religious thing here, but if you read the Bible, are any of you guys familiar with Congressman Sam Rohr? Okay, you familiar with the radio show Stand in the Gap? I'm a regular on Stand in the Gap with Congressman Rohr. I'm regularly on his show about once or twice a month talking about these same issues. And we've been talking about this for a while. We've been actually watching it develop and maneuver. And if you look at Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, the Ezekiel's war is a different war from the Battle of Armageddon. Everyone that's listed in Ezekiel's war is a Shia Muslim country. Lebanon, Syria, Iran, Yemen, Somalia. You keep going down the list. There's not a single Sunni country listed in chapter 38 and 39. Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, not in that war. And those are now allied with the United States and the West. The other ones are allied with Russia. I'm sorry, it's hard to read that book without watching what's happening in real life today. I don't know whether you believe in the Bible, I don't know whether you believe in God. All I know is I'm reading that and I'm watching what's happening in the real world. It's very difficult to say, how did somebody know 3,000 years ago that there was going to be an Islamic country, Islamic religion? How did they know that these countries would be Shia, these countries would be Sunni, these countries would form this alliance and they would all attack Israel. I can't explain that, but I'm watching it. It's happening. It's happening today, and I think it's going to happen very soon. I want to get back to the point that I'm trying to make here. I told you all of that to tell you this. Iran wants a war. They're not going to stop until they get a war. Here's why. Iran's economy is crumbling. I gave you the reasons why. It is beyond shaky. It is on the verge of utter collapse. The sanctions have been extraordinarily effective in isolating Iran's economy. Iran politically is on the verge of collapse. The general population have had it with the mullahs. They've had it with the religious police. They've had it with people driving by and beating them up for wearing the wrong clothes, for listening to the wrong music, for having satellite antennas on their roofs. The Iranian people, I know them. I used to be fluent in Iranian. I still speak Farsi, but I'm not as good as I used to be. But I have a lot of contacts with Iranian people. And inside Iran right now, there is a tremendous amount of instability. You remember in the last 2 years of President Obama's rule, there was a green revolution in Iran. You remember? The people rose up. They fought them in the streets. And they were slaughtered because no one came to their aid. They were counting on the United States to come in and stand up for them. They didn't want us to go in and fight for them. They wanted us to support them. They wanted us to stand up on the world stage and give them moral courage. They wanted us to give them some voice on the world stage, to give them some legitimacy. And we ignored them. Our government said not a word, and they were slaughtered. That particular movement died out, but the rage did not. The discourse did not. The individuals talking with each other. They have the same kind of meetings in Iran right now that you're having right here, but they have them in small groups in people's basements. And they do it where nobody knows, because they'll get shot and killed if they get caught. Imagine if we were meeting here tonight and we had to post guards so we could run when the authorities drove up. Would you still be here? Would you still care enough about what we're doing here to be here if there was a threat to your life? Well, the Iranians are doing that. They're courageous people. They're a proud people. I have no problem with the people of Iran. I detest the Iranian government with every fiber of my being. They're an evil regime. I don't say that about many things. They are evil. They have been the source of terrorism for almost every outbreak that has occurred. They are the funders and the trainers and the supplier of weapons for Hezbollah. They're the funders, they're the trainers, they're suppliers of weapons for Hamas. They're the trainers, they're the funders, they're the supplier of weapons for Islamic Jihad. I can keep going. There's 12 different groups the Iranians support in the Middle East and around the world, and their primary goal, their only reason for existence, is to carry out terroristic attacks on the West. They're not going to stop. They need a war to divert the attention of their people away from hating them to hating us. And they can't hate us when they can't get gas. They can't hate us when they can't buy food. They can't hate us when they can't buy clothes. The Iranian economy is being destroyed, and the Iranian people are paying the price for that, and they're angry at the Iranian government. The Iranian government wants to divert that attention to somebody else. That is why they want a war with Saudi Arabia and the United States, and they want a war with Israel. And they're going to stop till we get one. There's a second reason. The Shia Muslim community have a belief. I don't know how much you know about them. I've read the Sunni Quran 3 times. I've read the Shia Quran twice. I'm working my way through the Wahhabi Quran now, and they are different. A lot of people will tell you, oh, there's only one Quran. I guess that's the only one they've read. The Sunni Shia, the Wahhabi Qurans are different. The Shia Quran talks a great deal about the 12th Imam. And in their belief system, the 12th Imam, in around the year 900, fell down a well as a young boy and disappeared. Happens. Here, I think we call that child abuse. But they believe he's coming back. If you read the characteristics of the 12th Imam, it is precisely, exactly what we believe and call the Antichrist. They believe the 12th Imam is going to come back and start a worldwide war. A war that lasts for 7 years. That sound familiar? They believe that the 12th Imam is going to come back and rule the world for 7 years. At which point, all the Christians are killed and Islam begins to dominate the world. That's what they believe, and the 12th Imam is central to that. Here's why that's important to you. You may not have heard this, but trust me on this. The 12th Imam will not come back until the land is covered in blood. That's their prophetic quote. There has to be a major war in the land of Iran for the 12th Imam to come back. And the Ayatollah and his believers, his followers, his government, believe it is their duty to create the war to facilitate the return of the 12th Imam. That is absolutely what's going on. They're doing all of these things because in their mind, this is how they facilitate the return of the Mahdi. The 12th Imam is called the Mahdi. They want the Mahdi to return. And they need the war for that to happen. Israel's got to go. And the United States has got to go. And if they can get rid of the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Israel in that war and return the Mahdi, that is the ultimate goal. That is what this is all about. They don't want to talk. They don't want to negotiate. They don't want to understand us. They need a war for three reasons: economically, politically, and religiously. They're not going to stop till they get one. What's going on right now is Iran is escalating these attacks. They attacked 2 cargo ships thinking that that would precipitate an attack. Didn't work. Trump didn't take that bait. They attacked a Saudi Arabian airport thinking that the Saudi Arabians or the United States would respond. We didn't take the bait. Now, they've attacked one of the major sources of oil and gas for the world in a way that cannot be ignored. Here's the one thing that cannot happen. We cannot do nothing. There's no way in the face of this particular attack that nothing is the right answer. I don't know precisely what we're going to go do. I know what I'm hearing from people that I trust, and they're looking at several different options. There's options that range all the way from annihilation to simply just doing a tit-for-tat response. I don't know what they're going to go do. What I do know, nothing is not the right answer. They can't sit back on this one. Today, the Iranians made an announcement to set the stage for all this. They said if there is any response, Iran will engage in an all-out war against Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the United States. So even if we do what's called the politicians love to talk about a proportionate response. I spent my life teaching people war, and there's no such thing as a response or appropriate response in war. You either win or you don't. The reason why we've forgotten how to win wars is we've started trying to be police people and started trying to get people to just stop. We only want to use enough force to get you to stop. People don't stop until they surrender. If they're mad enough to go to war with you, they're mad enough to kill you. And they don't understand this, oh, we're just going to do it until you stop stuff. We're the only ones that seem to play that game. But this is all about trying to provoke us into an attack so that they can justify an overwhelming response and kick off a major war to return the Mahdi and to recover their economy. They're in a position right now, they have nothing else to lose. They've got nothing to lose. If they don't do something, they're going to fall. And a cornered dog will bite you. I don't care how weak it is. I don't care how sick it is. I don't care what this dog looks like. I don't care how small it is. You put a dog in a corner and threaten it, it will bite you. And Iran right now is cornered. Their economy shattered. They've been isolated from everyone but China. Let me say this. I've studied this. China is supplying Iran with the electronics to upgrade the missiles for both Hamas and Hezbollah. You know the 150 to 175,000 missiles that Hezbollah has stockpiled in the north against Israel? Those are Grads and Katyushas. They call them their Islamic names, but they're basically Russian Grads and Russian Katyushas. And they're dumb missiles. You light it, it flies, it goes where it's going to go, it hits something. It's always going to hit something. The interesting thing about a Katyusha is the Russians always say, it's 100% accurate. What do you mean? We launched it, it hit something. It didn't hit what we aimed for, but it hit something, therefore it was accurate. Now, that's been good enough for the Palestinians right now. But now China has given Iran the electronics and the GPS equipment to upgrade these missiles with a guidance package. Last week, they launched over a dozen missiles in one night that were all guided, and they all hit very specific locations. They have not announced this to the public. They haven't talked about it because they don't want to scare a lot of people. I'm not going to talk a great deal about it other than to say Palestinians have now shifted into a whole nother gear. They're not just launching ballistic missiles that are going to hit something. They've now got the capability to hit what they want to hit at distances where they can hit almost anything, almost anywhere in Israel. The danger in all of this is escalated to an entirely new level. At the same time, the government of Israel is in maximum flux. You think that's coincidence? No. None of this is coincidence. None of this is coincidence. Yesterday they had an election in Israel. Likud, who was the party of Netanyahu, has been in power for 10 years. And today, the party of Benny Gantz, the blue and whites, have 33 seats. Likud only has 31. Benny Gantz and his party are going to form the next government. Do you know who came in third in the election in Israel? Has anybody read? Anybody have any idea who the party is that came in third place? The Joint List. You even heard of the Joint List? Let me tell you who the Joint List is. Palestinians who live in Israel. They won 13 seats. That's the number 3 power block in the government of Israel today. Now, if Israel is an apartheid government, they really suck at it. Because the third largest party are the very people that everybody else in the world is saying that they're trying to kill and destroy. Israel has allowed them 13 seats in their Knesset. They're the number 3 party. And they're going to be a major player in the Gantz alliance, because Gantz has already formed an alliance with Blue and White and Avigdor Lieberman and Joint List. With that, he's put together a coalition with 57 seats. He only needs 61. So the game is on. If Gantz goes in, Gantz is a pretty good guy. He used to be the chief of staff for the Israeli Defense Force. And Moshe Gilon is also part of Blue and White. And I hold a great deal of respect for Moshe Gilon. He's a very good guy. A little misguided on occasion. I think that they've allowed their personal animosity towards Netanyahu to lead them to go do some things that are going to destabilize Israel at a very bad time. But this is the situation. Israel is on the verge of coming up with an entirely new government, and it's going to be a left-center government. Not a center-left, it's going to be a left-center government. Whereas Israel for the last 10 years has had a center-right government. There's going to be changes. I don't know what changes. I don't know how fast the changes are going to occur, but there's going to be changes. And that's going to destabilize Israel at the worst possible time, because Iran today is doing everything in her power to provoke a war, and Israel is at this moment the least prepared they've been in 10 years. Now, let's talk about technology. Israel has got some incredible technology. I don't know how much you know about David's Sling, Arrow 3, and Iron Dome. All three of these are air defense systems which have missiles that shoot down other missiles. The Iron Dome system is very short range, very capable system. It has been in use daily. Every day, Iron Dome is shooting down missiles from either the Gaza Strip or the West Bank or Lebanon. Every day. Every day. You don't hear about it in the news because it's become routine. David's Sling is an intermediate system. Iron Dome is out to about 10 to 17 miles. David's Sling goes from about 10 to 45 miles. Arrow goes from about 40 miles out to space. Arrow 3 can intercept missiles as they're in orbit. It's a very capable system. In fact, the seeker head on Arrow 3, I wish we had that. It's a better seeker head than anything we've got right now. Their missile defense systems are better than ours. I didn't think I would ever say that. Here's the problem. They've got an incredible defense shield that's working. For many years, scientists and engineers in the United States, and mostly politicians, have told us it won't work. You're spending all this money, it won't work. It can't work. You cannot have a missile defense shield. It's Star Wars, it's Reagan. It won't work. Let me tell you, it's working beautifully. THAAD, which is one of our systems, has got 17 out of 17 straight hits in the last 17 tests. PAC-3, which is a missile that's made by Raytheon, goes with the Patriot missile system. PAC-3 now has 27 out of 27 straight hits. These systems work. The Standard 3 missile that goes on our naval ships, I think they're 21 for 25. The Standard 6, which is the longer range version of that, is somewhere around 19 for 24. These systems work. They work fantastically. In fact, if you've got a military system that works 21 out of 24, I'll buy that. In war, nothing works 100%. Nothing. Here's the problem. I don't care how good their systems are, they cannot defeat 175 missiles that are being shot all at once. Think about that for a second. Suppose in Mexico they had 175,000 missiles they were going to shoot into Texas and Arizona, New Mexico, Louisiana, and Mississippi. What would we do? What would we do even if there was a threat of that? And yes, they do call it Louisiana. You can tell from my complete lack of an accent I ain't from around here. Although you guys do talk funny, I've lived here long enough I can interpret you. What would we do if we were under threat from 175,000 missiles? You went to bed every night not knowing that that was the night they were coming. And in Israel, they come every day. Today, around 3 o'clock this afternoon our time, Cedaro had 2 more missiles that came in and hit their town while they were in the middle of the celebration. There were some injuries. Every day. What would you do? Would you be willing to live like that? Would you be willing to accept that as just the status quo? Would you be willing to let Canada tell us we couldn't defend ourselves? Would you let the European Union say, oh, you're not allowed to have those systems? No. We would never accept that. So why can we, in good faith, tell Israel they are not allowed to have those systems? Why can we tell them, why can anyone in the world tell them they don't have the right to defend themselves? I'm sorry. I cherish all of our rights in the Bill of Rights. But the Second Amendment is there to protect everything else. And I said this, Sam Rohr asked me Friday, I was on the radio show with him Friday. He asked me, he said, JR, what's going on with this politician who said, we're going to come get your guns. And he had a whole colorful way of saying that. And I said, Sam, it's simply this. If they can invalidate one of our rights, they can invalidate all of them. If they can abridge the Second Amendment, they can take away your freedom of speech. If they can take away your guns, they can take away your freedom of religion. If they can take away our guns, they can take away your freedom from unreasonable search and seizure. If they take away our guns, they can take away our right to peacefully assemble, such as we're doing tonight. That is unacceptable. I will not stand for anyone taking away God-given rights. The government didn't give me those rights, and the government's not going to take them from me. I don't know about you. I don't know about what you think or what you believe, but I know that for me and my household, we will live free. We will never accept anyone telling me what we can and can't do, as long as what I do does not harm or interfere with another human being. And I believe the same thing for Israel. I don't agree with everything Israel does, but I love Israel. I love their society. I love their freedom. I love the way that they stand strong when everybody around them is trying to kill them. They don't give up. They don't quit. And unfortunately, too many people in America are willing to give up. We're willing to quit. We're willing to roll over. We're willing to say, well, if the government says they're going to do that, I guess they're going to do that. No, that ain't how that's going to go down. It's going to take every one of us standing up. The left is willing to get in our face and scream at us. The left is willing to hurt us. The left wants us to die. I heard it routinely. I get harassed as I go around the country. I go all over the world giving speeches. The left doesn't mind fighting for what they believe in. Conservatives far too often just say, you know, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to engage in that. Let it go. We can no longer do that and protect what we believe in. We can no longer do that and maintain our liberty. And the one most precious gift we have as human beings is liberty. We have to vote. We have to get out. We have to be willing to be semi-activists. I'm not saying get in their face. I'm saying don't back down. Don't give up. Don't quit. Be willing to stand up for what we believe. Be willing to go toe-to-toe with them. When they start screaming, we start talking. We start telling them what we believe, why we believe, and what we're willing to do. I'm willing to sacrifice for what I believe in. I'm willing to do whatever it's going to take for me to keep my rights. And if that means I have to get out and vote, I'm going to go vote. If that means I have to go out and speak, I'm going to go speak. I never gave a political speech in my life until earlier this year. This is my third. I now hope, pray God, that there will be a fourth. This is a great way to go tell people what I believe, and what I believe is we have to do something. Don't go quietly into the night. Don't let other people take things away from you because we're too lazy and too hooked on TV to go do what's right. Stand up. Stand up now. Go do what's right. Support the politicians. If you don't like them, so find the one that you like the best. There's not going to ever be a politician you agree with 100%. I voted for Donald Trump, and now I'm delighted I did. There's a man who's willing to fight. Let's fight here.
Back on? Good. I don't know how I can follow that talk, I'll tell you that. That was dynamic. Thank goodness we have that recorded. I can go home and watch it again and again. So, okay. Next part of our program is the political portion of our program. And tonight we have the one of two political campaign programs, but tonight is basically our 10th anniversary when this organization chartered. Actually, there's only one of that original charter team left, and he's getting old. But the other one in that charter, who became our first chairman, came out of retirement tonight, and he is going to handle and mediate our candidate debates. And it's not that he didn't want to continue what he was doing, but he's out of state 4 or 5 months a year in Florida, making a living like many of you folks are, so he had to make a choice, but we got him out of retirement for at least tonight. And I want to present to you Jim Billman, who is one of the few that helped start this organization and keep it going. Jim?
Thank you, Rod. Hello, everybody. It's been a long time since I've been up here. And Rod, actually, thank you. I told Rod that I was putting my notes on the podium, and the last time we did this, he took my notes with him, so I had to wing it. I will not be winging it tonight. I have my notes. Thanks, Rod. So tonight we're having the debates. There's going to be 2 candidate nights, one tonight and one in October. In October, the candidates' night will be the county commissioners, the mayor of Reading, and the Superior Court judicial candidates. Tonight, there's 3 office debates, and that is Recorder of Deeds, Clerk of Courts, and the Berks County Sheriff. We've allotted 60 minutes to do the debates. We're going to break it into a 15-minute segment for the Clerk of Courts, 15-minute segment for Recorder of Deeds, and a 30-minute segment for Sheriff. There is going to be some rules when you're asked a question, candidates. There'll be a 1 or 2 minute time to answer the question. Your opponent will have the same amount of time. And right here is the timekeeper. And which is how are we doing this? The yellow one is when you got 30 seconds left, correct? Yellow flag means 30 seconds, and then we will cut you off. So I'd like to introduce tonight our first candidates for tonight. We have the incumbent Democrat, Fred Schuyler, and his Republican candidate challenger, Mary Kozak. If you could make your way forward, you'll be our first debate tonight. This one working? So I'm going to lay this microphone here. You guys are going to have to share this one. Okay. So again, we have Fred Schuyler, Mary Kozak. Each one of you will have 2 minutes to introduce yourself. So we'll start with you, Fred, since you're the incumbent. 2-minute introduction.
Thank you. So my name is Fred Schuyler. I've been Recorder of Deeds since 2008. In that time, I've streamlined the Recorder's office, brought it back from the brink of collapse. Many of you remember our former Recorder, Ellie Antoine. She ended up going to jail. She stole from us. She had the office so far behind that things were taking up to 6 months to be recorded. When I came into office, there was still backlog. We quickly cleared that up. We've instituted new computer programs that has greatly increased the efficiency of the office. Our expenses are down over $2 million per year from the time of my predecessor. Every dollar that we save in a county row office or department reduces your tax dollars, because that's the only other place our commissioners have to go to fund county operations if our offices are spending excessively. We've digitized every single record. The records are important. It's the record of your home ownership. It's what you need to prove that you own your home. Every single one of those records has been computerized and it's available now on our website. That allows you an added sense of security that those records aren't tucked away in some office where people could do something and maybe potentially make them disappear. Everyone has access to them, so your neighbors can look it up, anyone else can look it up. Okay, the office of recorder is instrumental to the economy of Berks County. When the office got so far behind before my taking over, the title industry was just about ready to stop issuing title insurance. Has the experience to run the office efficiently. If that would have happened, you couldn't buy a house. You couldn't get title insurance. You couldn't get a mortgage. Businesses couldn't borrow. The economy could have come to a screeching halt, and that's just about what we were up to.
Thank you, Fred. Mary, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Okay, first of all, for those that don't know me, I am Mary Kozak, and I've been in Berks County in my entire life. I've owned my own business. I'm committed to professionalism. I've been involved in politics as long as I can remember. I can remember my grandfather that immigrated here from Poland used to take me to the polls with him and told me from a very young age how important it is to vote, how important politics are, how important people are when it involves politics. From his hand taking me, I also, with my parents, used to hand out literature for different politicians. And I am proud to say that the first time I voted at 18, I was then asked to become, and I was appointed, Berks County's youngest judge of election. I continued that for many years until I moved out of the city. Well, I moved out of the precinct, and the precinct I was in had their slate full. And when an opening came available, I moved into judge of election for my ward of 18-3, and I carried that position until I resigned when I filed my paperwork to run for your recorder of deeds. I'm approachable, I'm in customer service, I've done sales. I'm committed to keeping up with technology. Technology changes as fast as you can blink your eye. And being a fiscally conservative person, I will do that to save money. I'm also a pro-lifer, and I am a supporter of the Second Amendment. Thank you.
Mary will start the next question with you, and Fred will have, this is 1 minute each, and Fred will have a minute to respond. Is there anything regarding the cost control or staffing that you might address if you were elected?
Well, as far as cost control, of course with cost control you have to deal with the budget. Now, as someone that would be coming in new, I would get a hold of that budget, look at it, go with it. And the technology is probably the most important, along with staffers. And the only thing that I would probably automatically change is the availability of the public office of recorder of deeds. It is an office that should be giving a service to the community, and it should be open from 8 to 5, the same hours as the county service building, and not from 8 to 4. And that is my first commitment. And if I myself have to stay there to 5 p.m. to give that customer service to the private sector, so be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Fred, response to the question?
As I had said, we've reduced expenses from what the former Republican recorder of deeds had been running by $2 million. We've reduced the staff level. She had 24 people. We are down now to 11 people, including myself. Now, one of the reasons that we have we close our office at 4 p.m. is because you have two levels of staffing. We used to have people who came in at 8, worked to 4, people that came in at 9, worked to 5. We changed that as we became automated because 95% of our documents are arriving to us electronically. There are banks and credit unions and attorneys and title companies throughout this country submitting documents to us. They work shifts overnight. So when we come in the morning, we have a slew of documents ready to start working on. By the afternoon, they're all caught up. There's nothing more to do. So it makes sense to have our full staff there at 8 a.m. all at once and not staggered. It's more efficient.
Thank you. The next question, Fred, we'll start with you. Other than, and this is another 1-minute question, other than processing deeds, is there any additional functions of the office that we are not aware of?
Well, it's not just deeds, it's all land-related documents. Deeds, mortgages, rights-of-way, assignments of mortgage, satisfactions of mortgage, subdivision plans, and the other thing that we were charged with back in the year 1918 at the end of World War I is the recording of military discharges. And we do that duty solemnly and with great care. About 6 years ago, our former Department of Veterans Affairs Director, Gail Durr, who just retired, asked me to start issuing veterans ID cards, because since we are the custodian of the record, we've been doing that diligently, and I go out to veterans' homes who are homebound or they just can't get in and make it into the courthouse to issue their cards personally, and I find that duty to be just a solemn responsibility.
Thank you. Mary, follow up to that?
Well, as you know, that Office of Recorder of Deeds does record the deeds. And of course, it deals with not only people, it also deals with title searchers, and it also deals with real estate agents, and also lawyers that come in to do and look for deeds. And the one thing that I'm very proud to say that that office also does, and if I would have your support in becoming your next recorder of deeds, I gotta tell you, being a daughter of a Pearl Harbor veteran and coming from a lineage of all my uncles, my grandfathers, and my cousins, and now a nephew even, a recent graduate of the Citadel, I take great pride in that. And as part of my community service that I volunteer for, I volunteer for Wreaths Across America, where we place a wreath at every single veteran. And I personally do it up at Indian Town Gap. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary, we'll direct the next question to you. And that is, based on what's been reported, you took a unique path to become a candidate. I understand that you were a write-in candidate. What possessed you to do that?
Well, first of all, I should tell you that, yes, it was very unique. What I started to do was I had a petition where I had over 700 people sign that petition. And what happened was there was a technicality which I owned up to. My opponent had someone from my Republican side take that to court. I'm sorry. And what happened was I stuck to it. A leadership has to lead by example. I took it, I owned it, I withdrew my petition. I, as a leader, went back to my team and I said to them, we need to rally the troops. This is my plan. I am going to contact every single person that signed that petition. I personally wrote the letter, personally signed it, and put out all those letters. I also led my team into doing a complete write-in campaign for me at every poll.
Thank you.
And all, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Fred, follow up?
The importance, it's important to follow directions in the Recorder of Deeds office. There's laws that govern how we have to record things. And for the example of this, my opponent, she did not complete the proper paperwork for simply filing for office. There's an ethics statement that's required. If any of you have run for township supervisor or any other type of elected position, you have to complete a state ethics form, even if you're on one of the state boards of some sort. She didn't answer 12 of the 15 questions. She left it blank. She didn't sign it. She spelled recorder of deeds wrong. And I challenge that. That if you expect someone to handle the disbursement of $40 million per year of real estate tax, transfer tax, how can you expect to handle that by a person who can't file a simple form and follow directions and sign it?
We have time for one question from the audience. Is there anybody in the audience who has a question for this office? I see none. Rod, you have the microphone. There'll be a 1-minute response to the question.
I'm curious, how many people signed your write-in petition? Yes, that's for you there.
Okay, it went down as, well, it was 1,240 write-in signatures recorded, and it is the most documented from the election services since they've been checking out write-ins. And to just finish up on what Mr. Schuyler said about my paperwork, first of all, you cannot sign a paper that must be notarized by a notary republic. And as far as the questions that were not filled in, I take pride in being a conservative, and I have no debt. My home is paid for. I have no credit card debt. I have no loans. So I guess I'm about as fiscally conservative as you can get. And that was initiated into me as a child. Thank you.
The ethics form does not require a notary. If the ethics form does not require a notary, please go to the state website and look up the ethics form, or the County of Berks Election Services website. You'll see the ethics form does not get notarized. It's a very simple form. It has about 12 questions that are yes or no. All you have to do is check yes or no and sign it at the bottom. She left all those questions blank. What type of ethics things is she hiding or thinks is just not important enough to answer the question? Really? And you expect someone who can't do that simple form to process millions of dollars of your tax money and get the numbers right? I've been audited by our county controller who's sitting there, by our state auditors, and my audits are always perfectly clean because I know how important this paperwork is. Maybe she just forget to endorse a deed or mark it recorded. You can't trust an office like this. This is your home. You have to safeguard it with someone you can trust, who can follow directions.
Thank you. Thank you both. We have no more time for another question. We have to move on to the next debate. But thank you. If anyone has a question for either of these two, they will both be available back. We'll both stay, I assume. Right? Okay, so you can ask me a question back. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Mary. Our next debate is for Clerk of Courts, and we have Jim Troutman, the Republican incumbent, and his Democratic challenger, Andrea Jefferson. If you could both make your way forward. Again, Bruce will be keeping the time, so he'll flag you at 30 seconds with the yellow flag, and the red one is the stop flag. going to start with Jim Troutman. You have to take the microphone there. Explain the function of the office and how it relates to the court system. You have 2 minutes, and you'll have 2 minutes to respond. Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Introduce yourself. Yes, you each have a minute there.
Okay, I'll introduce myself. I am Jim Troutman. I am Berks County Clerk of Courts. I'm going to give you a little bit of my background so that those of you that don't know my background will know. I'm a Vietnam veteran, served in 2 tours in Vietnam. I served in the United States Navy Seabees, and I'm honorably discharged. I was appointed District Justice by former Governor Dick Thornburg, handling over 3,300 cases, ranging from motor vehicle to attempted murder. I was elected to the Berks County Board. Well, we have 30 seconds into the time, so...
30 seconds left. You have 30 more seconds.
Oh, 30 more seconds. All right, okay. I served on the Hamburg School Board for 10 years, 2 years as president. I've been elected to the Government Study Commission that studied county government. For 2 years, we studied county government. I'm a Berks County Republican committeeman and have been for about 35 years. And I served on the Northern Berks Chamber of Business and Industry. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrea Jefferson. I work in various offices in the county for such as proprietary and court information management, and the last 13 years for the Clerk of Courts office, where I started in the office as a court clerk and worked my way up to Office Support 5, which is the position right under management. I feel I am well qualified to run the office, as I was trained and worked almost every position in the office, and on a few occasions when there was no management people available, I was asked to supervise the office. As I mentioned before, the office is running okay, but okay is not good enough. I took my time and visited a couple other neighboring counties to see what kind of programs they had implemented, and I found many programs that could save the taxpayers, in one case, $100,000, $5,000 to $10,000. I don't have time to get into all the programs now, but if anybody wants to see me afterwards, I gladly will explain it. Like I said before, when it comes to running the Clerk of Courts, just okay is not good enough. It's time for a change, fresh ideas, fresh eyes, and let's turn the Clerk of Courts from just okay to exceptional. Once again, I'm Andrea Jefferson. I look forward to your questions and the challenge of being your next Clerk of Courts. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let me go back to the first question. Start with Jim. Explain the function of the office and how it relates to the court system so people understand what it is you do.
Well, first of all, the Clerk of Courts is the keeper of the records, criminal records. In Berks County, we have 17 MDJs, formerly district justices, of which I was one. Those 17 MDJs decide whether a prima facie case has been established and transferred into the Court of Common Pleas, which is basically your trial court. The Clerk of Courts manages the paperwork coming in from the MDJs into the Court of Common Pleas, and we will manage that paperwork that is necessary for every case that is heard by one of our judges. And that's what we do in there. I have to get used to the 30 seconds.
No, actually, you have 30 seconds more. The yellow one's 30 seconds, the red one is stop. You can keep going for another 30 seconds.
Okay. All right, we got to the Court of Common Pleas. We will manage the paperwork all the way up to the United States Supreme Court if, in fact, there has been a civil rights violation that requires it to go into a federal court. We handle all of the paperwork. I consider us actually the heart of the criminal justice system, not the brains. The brains I leave to the judge and the district attorney, but we are the heart. We do all the commitments, all the release, we do bail, everything that is done in the Court of Common Pleas passes through the Clerk of Court's office.
Andrea, follow up to that question, and why are you seeking this office? What can you add?
Okay. As a follow-up to Jim's question, he pretty much named everything that the Clerk of Courts does. They also send court clerks. They're responsible for sending them to court to also make sure the record is properly maintained in the courtroom and that commitments and discharges are issued properly. I'm seeking this office to be changed, and a lot of the technology that can be updated, which has yet to be done. I feel that sometimes you just need fresh eyes and new ideas to help something function more efficiently and save the taxpayers some more money.
Okay, next question is directed to you. So, do you see any improvements that you could point out that you could bring to the office?
Yes. I've learned many improvements by visiting the other counties. One example will be to get e-filing implemented in the office. Many of the other counties are doing e-filing of documents, and according to what those Clerk of Courts told me, that saved them about $100,000 a year. Another example is collecting delinquent fines and costs before it would go to the collection agency. The one county was successful in implementing their own collection program, and they have successfully collected $15 million over the last 6 years by simply employing some of their financial people to call these people before it goes to collection and even just collect from them $5 a month. Those are just two. I have many more, but I don't have the time right now to explain them.
Okay, Jim, you get to respond. Have you taken any steps to improve the efficiency of the office?
Well, one of the first steps that we've taken is that we, if you saw in the paper, digitalizing criminal files will save $100,000 a year. The first thing that I did with regards to that is that by imaging the documents in our office at the time we make the docket entry. All docket entries are, for example, bail is set at $10,000. That's a docket entry that will remain in the file. At that time that we do that, we'll then image that document right then and there. My opponent has said that we did this too late, should have been done years ago. The fact of the matter is that those images, and we've sent over 1 million images to AOPC, the Administrative Office of the Supreme Court, because they have come up with the room to handle those 1 million images that we're sending. Prior to June of this year, all of those records had to be microfilmed, and they were controlled by the Pennsylvania Historical Society.
Okay, Jim, we're going to start the next question to you. We want to ask, is your staff adequate? Is there training required for new employees in your office? Do you have a high turnover rate? If something would happen tomorrow that you could not fulfill your duties, is there someone in your office that could continue a smooth transition to keep things running in your absence?
Absolutely. I have my chief deputy that's been sitting in the front row right here, has been with me for 32 years. She is absolutely capable of running that office should anything happen to me. I have an office manager that's been with me for 25 years, and she is also capable of running that office. I have an administrative assistant that is assistant to me, is also capable of running that office. So if I fell over right here, that office would be running very, very smoothly without any problem or question whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. Andrea, follow up to that question. What do you see, if anything, that would bring costs down or staffing changes? And are you prepared to make a seamless transfer should you be the one elected to the office?
Okay. Should I be the one elected to the office, I would keep everyone in the same positions they are in that office. Unlike other clerk of courts that would wipe out deputies, management, that office that is run well by the deputies, by the office manager. Like I said, everything's okay now, and they do a good job. I wouldn't go in and fire anybody. I just would involve the office more, have office meetings, and get suggestions from the employees with what should be done to help it run a little bit more efficient and help their work a little bit easier and boost morale a little bit. But I would keep everybody that's in there right now, because it is running okay the way it is.
Okay. Next question, start with you, Andrea. Explain why you would want the position and what we might expect if you are elected.
I want this position because, like I said, I worked in the office 13 years and I saw many, many changes that would help the office overall and help save money. One of the big changes is cross-training. I would implement cross-training of all the employees. Everyone in that office would be cross-trained to learn not only their classification, but every classification below it. So when you have people out sick and on vacation, it's not the same 3 and 4 people that are doing the job. That's just one of the things, and that would really help boost morale and make the office more efficient. The money-saving ideas, I told you what could be implemented. I've seen it in other counties, and it's not a big transition. And also the scanning, that's great. Mr. Troutman got that in there now, but it's my understanding there's a big backlog right now. And from what I've heard from other counties, they restaffed when they got the scanning, and some of them got the scanning in there a year and a half ago. But they restaffed, it's the same scanning that he used, and you're in court today, your things are imaged, you can see them tomorrow.
Thank you. Jim, next question is directed to you. You stated that this would be your last term. How are you preparing to turn the office over to the next clerk of courts, irrespective of which party will succeed you?
Well, actually, I won't be the one turning the office over to the next clerk of courts. You will be deciding who the next clerk of courts is. That's the process that we have in this county. And you, the voter, will select the next clerk of courts. But I want to go back to this imaging. This imaging will save the taxpayers right now $100,000 a year. Over 10 years, that's $1 million. I don't know, she keeps saying the office is running okay. What's the problem with running okay? We're running excellently. We are doing what is necessary to meet the requirements of the judges, of the criminal justice system on a day-to-day basis. You don't see any problems with our office. People are not in there, writing up stories that we are not doing our job. We're doing the job that we need to do better than okay.
We have time to take questions from the audience. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to ask a question? Sam's coming with the microphone. The question will be asked. Andrea, you answer first, and then Jim, you have the same amount of time to respond.
Andrea, my question is to you. You indicated you've been in this office for 13 years. You indicated that you worked your way up through the office. You are a public servant, and you're saying now that you have seen over the years ways to change things. Why now? Why not past 13 years?
I did see the changes in 13 years. Some of them were brought to management's attention, but they stopped having office meetings, taking suggestions more or less. I did make a couple suggestions, and they just kind of ended with whichever office manager or the clerk of whoever I talked to. It wasn't acted upon because I guess they felt that it wasn't a good change for the office. And I've heard other attorneys make these suggestions as well, some of them, such as the e-filing, the scanning. But That's why. So I wasn't gonna rock the boat.
Jim, response to that?
I don't know what changes that she has brought forward. She didn't bring any to me in the 13 years that she worked there. I know of no changes that she requested that we did not act upon or were not appropriate to put into place. We went through 2005, we brought in CPCMS, which is Common Police Case Management System. You have to understand that the Clerk of Court's office is directed by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. They are the ones that decide what we're going to do, how we're going to file our documents, and we are the same throughout 67 counties in the state of Pennsylvania. We all use CPCMS. We were very fortunate that they came up with the ability for us to put these million and some odd numbers of images into that computer system. Prior to June, they did not have the capability to take 1.5 million images and put them in there, which is a big savings for the county.
Any other questions from the audience? Anyone? Up here, Sam. Sam. We'll have time for one more after this.
This question is for Mr. Troutman. You made the comment that constables should have their fee bills reduced because they're earning too much money. Is that the attitude you have toward all working people, to have their pay cut down on?
So is your question, should I have everybody have their pay cut, or what was your question?
You have researching all the facts behind the scenes. You made the comment, let's calculate the constable's salary. You have to take it and add it for people.
I'm not sure I said, let's cut their pay.
You did it in the newspaper.
I'd like to, with all due respect, I'd like to see that specific statement, but what we did is we took a look at it and said, if a constable goes out and serves 19 warrants on an individual at $27.50 a piece, and basically we bring the person in, put them on a payment plan, and they fail on that payment plan because they can't afford $27.50 for that particular warrant, they issued the same ones again. I happen to be sitting on the committee with the president judge, along with the sheriff and a number of MDJs, to take a look at what is going to be fair, and fair to the constables, fair to the county, and fair to the individuals that are receiving these citations.
Andrea, response to that question?
Well, my response is, first of all, that really doesn't directly have to do with the Clerk of Court's office. So I really don't have a response other than, as far as the workers in the Clerk of Court's office, yes, they, no, I would not be against giving them raises or whatever, but that's all mandated, like Mr. Troutman said, by the union and by a lot of other factors. We don't have control over any of that.
One more question from the audience?
I salute the fact that you went to other clerk of courts to find out what they did. Exactly what kind of technology are you suggesting to use? Andrea.
Okay, like I said, one of the things was that they actually take the defendants that are on their payment programs, and if before they go to collections, they have people calling them to see what can you afford. They bring them in, it's almost like their own court, and say, okay, you can afford $5 a month. They set them up in a program like that and check in with them once a month. Actually, one of the deputies is in charge of doing that. That's the one they had the success rate with, that they got $15 million in the last 6 years that did not have to go to collections and pay a percentage. Another example of this program is to use debit cards issued to the victims instead of printing out paper checks. This saved the one county $5,000 to $10,000 a year in costs, and also the employees' times, because I know from working in that office, when checks go out for restitution, they get lots and lots of phone calls. The company that issues the checks, the debit cards, fields all those phone calls. It's a completely different number, so it would save employees time.
Jim, response to the question?
Response is basically, actually, the controller has just brought the idea of the debit cards to our office, and we're studying, we're waiting for some information. Actually, what the debit card does is that you take and transfer money to this debit agency that prints these cards. I've asked for information from the controller that my solicitor can take a look at it. You need to understand, they're now saying take money that I am statutorily responsible and give it to a credit card agency that's going to provide that particular card. And I'm not sure it can be done legally, so I've asked for information, a contract on that specific item. And until I get that information and get an opinion from my solicitor that I can take taxpayer money and move it to a third party to make distribution, I'm not going to do it until I get an opinion from my solicitor. That's what he gets paid to do, is to give me his opinion on these type of legal issues. So, and actually, we were the first ones, one of the first ones in the state, I believe the first one, that employed collection agencies to do our collections. Collection is an obligation of the adult probation department. We are charged with distribution of the money. They are charged with collecting.
Thank you both. And again, I'm sure both of you will say, if you have any questions, they're set up in the back. You will speak to them directly. At this time, I'd like to ask our two sheriff candidates to come up. Thank you, Andrea. And that will be Eric Reedneck, our Republican incumbent, and Bart Gansford, the Democrat challenger. You can make your way up. Thanks, Jim. Welcome, Bart. We're going to give each of you a 2-minute opening statement. We're going to start with Eric. Why do you seek to be reelected?
Well, I'm not done doing my job. I worked for the sheriff's office for over 35 years. For those of you doing the math, I started when I was 10 years old. I started under Sheriff John Kramer, and I was a young boy, 20 years old, out of Greenwich Township, not too far from here. And very antiquated office. We didn't see a lot of changes. We didn't have many cars, anything like that. Then we elected Republican Barry Joswiak. Under Barry Joswiak, I was promoted to Assistant Chief Deputy. I was in charge of the Court Division. And then again promoted in 1999 to Chief Deputy, where I ran the office underneath Barry. I established in 2007 I was elected sheriff by you people, and I appreciate that. And as sheriff, I think I made a lot of changes, positive changes. I made it a lot easier to deal with the office. One of my campaign promises was to make it easier for you to deal with us. Born and raised in Greenwich Township, I know my family had to take a day off of work to go into the courthouse to get their license to carry or to do any other business. So I opened up remote locations, and those remote locations are in Hamburg, Kutztown, Wernersville, Colebrookdale, and I think there's one more. But Burnsboro. Yeah, thank you. So they're surrounding the county. And then I also opened up the airport substation. So that made it a lot easier for you to deal with us. And that was one of my campaign promises that I kept. I also started the Project Lifesaver in Berks County to help the citizens suffering from Alzheimer's and also the children with autism. So if they would wander off, deputies will actually go out to those locations using tracking devices and bring them home safely. And that's just a couple of the items that I started, and we'll get into more as we go on.
Thank you. Bart, 2 minutes for you. Why are you seeking the position of sheriff?
Well, first off, my name is Bart Ganser. I'm a lifetime resident of Berks County. I'm sorry, let me back up. First off, I want to thank the veterans for their service, for doing what they did so we can be here to do what we do. I also then would like to thank my opponent, Eric, for his 35 years of service to the department. I'm a resident of Berks County. I've been a Pennsylvania State Constable for the last 22 years. I've been a business owner for the last 39 years. I'm a member of the Patriotic Sons of America. I'm a member of the Patriots here. I'm a member of the NRA. I've been endorsed by the United Gas Workers Local 600 and by the United Labor Council of Reading and Berks County. Why I'm running for sheriff? My plan: secure the courthouse, respect and support local law enforcement when requested and when the deputies are trained to do those details, fiscal responsibility, firearms training and safety, and enhance the deputy training. It's time for new ears, new eyes, and new tactics, and I appreciate your support November the 5th.
Okay, we'll move to our first question. We're going to direct this to Eric. Between the billboards and the recent news coverage, there's an apparent lack of qualified applicants for the position of deputy sheriff, and the total applicants have diminished over the years. The speculation suggested the pay has deputies leaving for better pay in municipal police forces and state police forces, resulting in a high turnover. Is there something with the $50 application fee to turn to apply? Are they failing background checks? Failing the written exam? Seemingly lack of respect for the position. People are just curious as to why it has dwindled.
Good question. Since we had the article run and also the billboards, we are up to over 65 applicants right now. We're testing on 10-5, so we're going to have a good group to come through. We lose people once they're hired to other municipalities. Pennsylvania State Police, obviously, a much better job as far as for raising a family, pension, everything else. The changes I made may hurt us as far as hiring, but I think we owe it when you wear this badge. We have some tough guidelines. You go through 3 written tests, you go through physical agility testing, you go through a background check that I guarantee you is tough. I don't think my opponent would make it through that background check. And then we, I know you would.
You'll have a chance to respond.
Yeah. So, but I think it's important that when you wear this badge, you earn the badge. And I'm telling you that is bottom line. The deputies we're hiring are doing an excellent job, and that's why we are losing them to the state police and other places.
Okay. Bart, you have a chance to respond to the statement, and what can you do to improve the situation as per the original question?
Well, most of the questions I can't answer because I'm not part there, I'm not in that. I can answer, I think I can be clear of a background check. I don't know that I have anything in my skeletons in my closet, but I always thought I was an upfront guy and didn't break the law. But anyway, I think one of the problems I'd like to change is, I'm not saying that Eric has not done a good job of what he's doing, but I think there's a little bit more, we need to use the deputies, give them assignments, make them important, make them feel important. We need to acknowledge them about their contributions to those assignments. I think we need to have a good culture, a good climate for working. And I also think we need to educate the deputies that they all become recruiters, all understand how to recruit new people or people to come into the office, get them to want to become a deputy. I think that's something we need to do. It's about education. We need to have more community involvement, maybe get into the schools a little more. I know they do have a program with cadets where they bring in explorers and they bring in children. I think that's a lot of that is done in the suburbs. I think maybe we should look into doing it in the inner city also. Okay, that's my plans. Thank you.
Okay, our next set of questions, we're going to start with you, and they're all going to be 2-minute questions now for our timekeeper.
You're going to start with me, sir?
Yes. Art, what training do you have that qualifies you to be the sheriff, You have law enforcement training and management skills. What do you have in your background of it?
Well, I have not been through the training for the sheriff's deputy. I have been through training for the Pennsylvania State Constables, and the updates every year. We have to go back every year. As far as, I've run businesses. I've run my own business for 39 years. I've run several other businesses. I have many businesses in my times. Employees, I have several employees in the other businesses. In the business that I run now, we don't have paid employees. Actually, everybody volunteers. And that's what I'm about. Also, when I talk about the business I run now, and I know Eric taunts himself as being a great leader, but it's all about him. I don't do that with my business. Yes, I am a 7-time Hall of Famer, but it doesn't mean anything to me. What it means to me is I have 20 students, 20 other people that are also Hall of Famers. And that's what I tout on. I tout on making my people better. That's what leadership's about. That's what I'm all about.
Eric, same question. What skills do you possess in management and law enforcement?
Well, one of the great qualities that I bring, and it was on-the-job training. I graduated from the Pennsylvania Sheriff's Academy, and it's not easy, and it got harder as years go on. It's a 19-week academy. You have to run a 1.5 miles, and you have to do a vertical jump. You have to do a sprint. It's not easy. Anyway, I started there. I did 35 years. My first several years were doing the job. Worked my way up into a assistant chief, then chief deputy, and that's what made it nice for me is when deputies come to me with a problem, I faced it. I faced it as a deputy, I faced it as an assistant chief, and I faced it as a chief deputy, and I faced it as sheriff. That is on-the-job training that you're not going to get coming in at the top. Absolutely not. It is a lot of, dealings that we have now are different than when I started. Absolutely. The environment of law enforcement has changed dramatically. I mean, you look at the water dousing in New York, you look at the Attorney General's office coming in to investigate a shooting that we had to put up with for 8 years under the Obama administration based on race and nothing else. That's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. And that's what changed for us, and that's one of the things that I think we have a problem getting some applicants in. Right now, the economy's really good. And if you're going to get paid the same amount of money to go to a job, work at a computer, or go out and face that scrutiny, it's an easy decision. You have to have it in you. You have to have the law enforcement in you, and that's what we're recruiting right now.
Okay, the next question will be for both candidates. We'll start with you, Eric. First, explain. PA is an open carry state, for those of you that don't know that. What is the law? It's a multi-part question. What is the law if a place of business has a sign prohibiting guns in their establishment? What if you carry concealed into that establishment? And what is the penalty if you violate the policy in a public place of business?
This is one of the topics that I do a lot of seminars on. I trained thousands of people in Berks County. We went up to Schuylkill County and assisted the sheriff there doing several hundred. And the reason we do it is because when you get your license to carry a firearm, we don't want to see someone make a mistake. Because if you make a mistake, you break the law, you could be charged and you could be put in jail. And one of the topics we cover is the right of a business owner to set the conditions of that private property of the business. One of which can be, you can't come in with your gun. And what I always tell people is, first of all, you look at the establishment and you see if you can do business with a place that will let you carry your gun. Amen. There you go. So, once it's posted, you can go in. If you have your gun on and the manager sees you and they ask you to leave, leave. If you don't leave, you could be charged, if you call the police, you could be charged with criminal trespass, disorderly conduct. You can't be cited for a firearms violation. You have to leave, the police would remove you, but there is no firearms law that you're breaking. The law does require any establishment must post it on the entrances, so it has to be a visible sign that you can see, and that's what you have to follow. But it's not breaking the law of a firearms violation if you go in anyway.
And did you explain the right to carry portion of that? Where open carry safe?
Oh, open carry, you're allowed to open carry in Pennsylvania. The only restriction on open carry is in the city, county of Philadelphia. In the city and county of Philadelphia, you have to have a valid license to carry, Pennsylvania license to carry. That was done by the law, so it is a law we have to comply with, but it is the only restriction in Pennsylvania.
I don't think that adequately explained the open carry, though, that it's true you can't conceal that weapon.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, yeah. If you don't have a valid license to carry, and you get on any mode of transportation in Pennsylvania, it can be a bicycle, it can be a car, anything, you need a license to carry. If you don't, you can be cited for firearms not to be carried without a license. If you have a coat on and you open carry, and you don't have a license to carry permit, and your coat falls over your weapon, again, you can be charged with firearms not to be carried without a permit. And it's a felony 3. You'll never own, possess, or carry a firearm again.
Berks, any question to you?
Well, you know, Eric has answered the question. The only thing that I want to add to that, and this is where I am for concealed weapon carrying, and I even said when it comes to the satellite locations, I'd like to maybe open up a Saturday morning somewhere so people at work can get there to get their permits. Because I feel it's very dangerous. There's a lot of crazy people out there. I think Eric thinks I'm one. You have that gun exposed, okay? You're carrying outright, that gun's exposed. If it's not in the right holster, like a level 3 holster where somebody can't easily take it from you, someone can take that gun away. I'd rather have you have a concealed permit and have that gun concealed so people don't know maybe that you have it, that crazy person. You know, I watched in the room tonight and I'm looking, everybody's got those guns out, and when they walk past, how easy it would be to grab that gun. That's what I look at. You know, I look out to see who's here and how easy it would be. So I'm for the concealed carry permits, and I think it should be that we enforce, or not enforce, but suggest to the people that they try to get that. Because I think that's safer for the citizens of Berks County and for the guy carrying the gun. I really do. There's a lot of crazy people out there. There's no doubt about it, other than me.
We'll direct the next question to you. Yes, Art? With the current political climate and the bias against guns in the national media, where do you stand on the Second Amendment, and what would you do as sheriff if there was a government order to confiscate them from private citizens, therefore violating the Second Amendment?
Well, that, you know, again, I'm a member of the NRA, and I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. I'm a supporter of the Constitution. I'm a believer we shouldn't change anything. There has to be gun laws. Maybe some things have to be changed. But again, when I say change for the fairness of everyone. That's what I'm looking at. When you say if the government tells me as sheriff I have to take the guns away, I have to abide by the Second Amendment. If the Second Amendment changes, I need to enforce that, then that's what I'm going to have to do. So will any sheriff, or they're going to get locked up for not enforcing it. I support the Constitution as it is now, and as a United States citizen, I'm going to have to support it as the changes will be made. What will happen if somebody comes to take my guns? I'm not going to sit here and say, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. Okay?
Thank you. Eric, same question.
Okay, and if I could just elaborate real quick. I started the remote locations. For 12 years, I have come under budget every single year. The remote locations, we have never had anybody tell me they couldn't come there and they needed open on a Saturday. I don't know where, Bart, we get the money for because we have labor agreements. We're not going to pay someone 8 hours of overtime to sit there and just to waste money just to sound good. I mean, I understand that when you're a challenger, you have to have a couple talking points because you really don't have the qualifications for the job, nor know the job. So I do understand that. But as far as the Second Amendment, I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys know where I stand on this. I was one of the first sheriffs to sign up against the executive order of President Obama when he was talking about mandating confiscation of weapons. So it was all said and done, I think we had 60 out of 67 county sheriffs in Pennsylvania sign that. I was one of the first, if not the first. You know where I stand. I was the first sheriff in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to issue permits while we wait. I was the first sheriff in Pennsylvania to also eliminate the references. Why? Because it's illegal for a sheriff to disclose if a person has a carry permit. And if that person is renewing their permit and they put the names down and we call them, it's illegal. So we don't do it. There you go.
Next question, again, Mr. Schuyler there at this time. If PA was declared a sanctuary state, or even if Reading was declared a sanctuary city, what, if anything, would you do to help ICE to arrest and detain any criminals who came here illegally and were a threat to the citizens of City?
Okay. We've been down this road, and we have a very good working relationship with ICE. We have a phone call away if we run into somebody on a traffic stop that doesn't have the proper documentation to be here legally. We notify them, they come in, they do their job. We don't get involved with it. I am totally against the sanctuary cities. I think it is absolutely ridiculous. The thing you hear is the politicians saying, well, you're not going to have people come forward to help solve crimes. And that honestly is just a bunch of crap. We have technology that you don't even have to give your name. We have the most wanted. We have an app, we have a hotline. We advertise our most wanted in the Reading Eagle, 69 News, everywhere we can put a merchandiser. We will never ask your name. We will never ask if you're a citizen. All we want to know is where we can go pick up that bad guy, and we are good at it. We're extremely good at it. We're part of the U.S. Marshal Task Force, where we are traveling in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, and we are picking up people in other counties that are wanted for crimes that are just absolutely horrendous. We picked up a guy 2 years ago in Hamburg who shot and killed 2 people in New York City, and shot a 3rd kid because they scratched his car. Where did he come? He came here to Berks County. He came up to Hamburg. He was living in the parking lot of Walmart. We hit that car. He blessed himself. He pulled his gun up. The deputy shot him through the chest. The marshals shot him on the side. He lived, and we had to guard him for almost 30 days nonstop at the hospital. But we put him back to New York City. But I'm telling you, absolutely against sanctuary cities, because the people will rat the people out. That's what they do. We know for a fact when we have drug warrants, we have other drug dealers who are ratting them out.
Respond more, component. Sorry. Clark, same question. If PA was declared a sanctuary state or Reading a sanctuary city, where do you stand on that same question?
I'm also against sanctuary cities, okay? I believe what Eric says is very legit, and he's right. But what I want to know is if the Constitution changed and the Second Amendment, and they said you had to take the guns away, you never answered. Would you take their guns away?
There'll be a revolution.
First of all, that's for changing the Constitution. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. But I took the oath to uphold the Constitution, and I have faith in my leaders that Second Amendment will never change.
I believe that. All I want to know is you would or wouldn't. But if it would change, what would you do? Well, when you ask me, I
Yeah, let's move on. Actually, I have another question revolving around the same issue. If Reading was declared a sanctuary city and the mayor said that no one in the city will be able to enforce anything with ICE, does that include the sheriff's office because you're county, or would you have to comply with the mayor's, just like in New York where the city police can't get involved with anything with ICE? I'm asking you first.
Okay. Well, I believe what I would do there is it's the city. We would stay out of the city. We would protect the county. The citizens of Berks County would protect the county. That's what we had to do. If the mayor was not going to let us do it in the city, those people will come out of the city. And we'll get them. That's the way it'll work.
So you're saying you're under the authority of the mayor then in the city of Reading?
I believe we're under the authority of the state of Pennsylvania. Okay? When we supersede the mayor's order, I don't know what we would do there. I really don't. I can't answer that.
Okay. Same question for Eric.
Okay, we applied for Act 287G. Now, people don't know what 287G is. What it does is it takes deputy sheriffs and it trains them at the ICE academy. So it'll teach the deputies to do an investigation on the background of the individual. We were almost ready to do it, and President Obama cut the funding, so we had to stop it. Under President Trump, he started it again. We looked into it. I went to City Council where everyone was against it. I tried to explain to them, they said it would be racism. And I tried to explain to them, in central booking, the person is already arrested. So how can it be racism? We're not arresting them. The police are. So when they bring it into us, we would then check to make sure that they're here legally. If not, we would then detain them, give them to ICE, and ship them out. We didn't get it because of the fact that it has to be right now a prison, not a detention center, which we are in central booking. But hopefully they'll open up that door, and when they do, I can tell you, we will apply again, and we will hopefully get it. And I don't care who the mayor is, and I don't us, that's ours. And we will do it from there. We will look to see if they're here legally, and if they're not here legally, we will then go to the MDJ, and we will explain to them that they have to increase the bail. We will notify the ICE officials, put them in Berks County Prison, and then let them do their job.
We have time for a question from the audience. Does anybody have a question for one of the candidates? Rod, thank you. I only see two hands, so we'll actually take two questions. Break your way forward, please. No, not Leon, I'm sorry, I have him back there. Go ahead, Andy.
I have a question about the red flag law. I'd like both candidates' opinions on the red flag law and how their feelings are. And maybe there might be just one person in this audience that doesn't know what it is, so maybe that could be explained first.
The red flag law is basically someone telling the officials, law enforcement officials, that a person is making threats, they could be potential danger to mass shootings, stuff like that. The red flag laws that I've seen so far have not followed due process. Basically, once that call is made, the police will go into that person's home. They will take that into custody. They will seize all their weapons. The problem I have with that is, first of all, where's the due process? Where is the right for that person to meet and see their accuser? It's not written in the law so far that I have seen. And without that, basically, you could call somebody up and say, I don't like that person, so I'm going to make the call, and then you just let everyone go take their weapons, everything else. So you have to follow the Constitution, because that's what we have it for. We need it for due process. I do agree, and using the FBI's numbers, 80 to 85% of the mass shootings that we've already had, there were several people who already knew about it, but they didn't follow the steps to call and tell them. So there is obviously a need, but not to go to jump due process, take the guns, take the person into custody, and possibly never get them back or never be able to meet your accuser. That's where I have a problem with it.
Mark, response to that?
I'm also in agreement with that. I'm in agreement with the liability of what you're going to do there. You're going to go in and take away the person's constitutional rights, and nothing was proven yet. You know, as far as Eric's concerned, that could be me, the way he treated me up here tonight. You know what I mean? Eric, relax. But anyway, I understand it's about a liability. Just like the ICE, when we talk about the ICE, that's a liability. You really have to worry about that. When the detention center, us going into the detention center, that's a liability to the county. That puts a lot of problems in insurance payments and stuff like that if you do it wrong. Okay, a lot of lawsuits. So, but yeah, I'm also against it.
Okay, we're going to limit the next question responses to 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yes, the question I have is, I want to ask the sheriff this. Of course, I'd like to hear the Democrat opponent answer this. How are constables paid? And have we ever had a constable in the state of Pennsylvania make more than the governor of Pennsylvania in any given year? Thank you.
You want him to answer first, or me to answer?
I'd like you to answer.
Okay, I have the stats on that if anyone. Quoting the Reading Eagle, my opponent from 2005 to 2008 made just under $900,000 as a constable. I mean, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, you're a constable, I think you can idolize him. But The reference, I mean, obviously my opponent thinks that I set him up or I did whatever, but if anyone is interested, go to the pathonetary's office and put in Mark Anster, and you'll see what I'm talking about. That's what we do when we do a background. It's public information. I'm not making any of it up, so just, if you have time, go do that. I am fortunate, I sit on the Constable Review Board where we're going to look at changes, and there is truly a lot of fat that needs to be trimmed from the constables, and I am the first one in that committee to say, if a constable picks up the person, I don't care how many warrants there are, they should get paid for every one of them, but they shouldn't be handed a body from a police officer who made that arrest, and they get paid $27.50 per warrant, up to 10 or 20 warrants for doing absolutely nothing. It is absolutely ridiculous. There's only a couple of constables who are doing it. Night court, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we're getting the people. We're searching them. We're doing everything with them. They get $10 to walk them up. They get $27.50 for the warrant, $10 to walk them down. You're paying for this. Remember that.
Okay. Well, first off, I did make a lot of money. I worked a lot of hours. I arrested a lot of people, a lot of warrants. I worked night courts, I worked daytime, I worked around the clock. I made a lot of arrests. There was investigations. I think 3 times they investigated. I was not caught doing anything wrong. Okay? I did everything by the book. The problem is here, what people don't understand, there's a Pennsylvania fee bill. There's a fee bill that we have to go by. We can't charge any more or any less. That's the way it's set up. The government set it up that way. The state of Pennsylvania set it up that way. We have no choice but to charge. We have no choice but to make the arrest. They give us the warrants, we have to make the arrest. I did nothing illegal. I worked for 5 different magisterial district judges. I did process of service. I did evictions. I did subpoenas for the district attorney. Worked for the district attorney for 3 years doing subpoenas. Okay? I work. That's what I do. I get the job done. I'm out there, I'm on the street day and night, and I provide a service that pays me. And that's all I did. That's the American way, is it not? The American way is to get out there and make money. Okay? And that's what I did. Also, you didn't make all that money. I pay for everything. Okay? We're a subcontractor. We're 1099. I don't get a car, I don't get equipment, I don't get a vest, I don't get a gun, I don't get health insurance, I don't get vacation, I get nothing.
We have time for one more question from the audience. One last question. Rod, you have one back there.
Where are we here? Okay, we'd like a brief question and brief answers. We're behind schedule, but it's very spirited. I hate to turn it off, but we have to move on.
Yes, being county sheriff is the top-ranking official within the county. Would you consider prioritizing and making Berks County a Second Amendment county? There are counties throughout the United States where they didn't like what their state government was doing, trying to change the Second Amendment around. They said, no, we're not going to listen to you. We're going to become a Second Amendment county, and nobody outside of the county will be able to touch your firearm.
Yes, you have the microphone, so Bart, you respond for...
Well, you know, again, I'm going to follow the Constitution. I mean, I'm not going to break the Constitution. If the voters, if it becomes an issue on a ballot and it's voted and the people want it, well, I'm going to enforce it. But I'm not going to break the Constitution, just outright break it because we feel that's what needs to be done as the sheriff. I would not do that. You have to look at, you represent everybody in Berks County, not just a few. And that's the way I have to look at that.
Okay, again, you know my feelings on the Second Amendment. I think they stand for themselves. But what we need to do is we really need to study our candidates, not just on a county level, but also on a state and federal level, and look at what's going on. There is a bill right now in the House that wants to make you do every single weapon, every firearm you own, you have to register with the Pennsylvania State Police. You have to charge $10, pay $10 for every weapon. You have to give them your date of birth, social security number, background, everything. You have to do it annually. Any firearm that never went through the registration process, so that means they're older guns, would be illegal for you to carry unless you register it with the Pennsylvania State Police. There's also in that bill from Philadelphia and Montgomery County, they're the people who put this together, in the bill, it would be illegal for you to have an unloaded gun in your home, regardless if they're children that live there. This is what's going on. And this is in Pennsylvania. It's going on in every single state and also in the federal government. In the federal government right now, Congress has a bill that would make it mandatory for you to do a background check to buy a bullet. And sadly, that's probably going to pass the Congress, and it'll die in the Senate. Now, I've been assured from old habit, Representative Joswiak, who sits on the Judiciary Committee, that the one in Pennsylvania will never make it out of the Judiciary Committee. But if we don't want to re-elect, this is what they're trying to do, and if we lose a majority, this is what they will do. I won't stand for it, absolutely not. I will follow the Constitution.
I'd like to thank our two candidates. Thank you very much. We'd like to thank all the candidates for coming out tonight. And again, I believe that Bart and Eric will be in the back if you have any questions for them after the meeting. Thank you, Bart. Thank you, Eric. And Rod has a brief announcement.
Okay, before we get into the final wrapping up of this meeting, I did see today, as I looked around, is Barry Joswiak still here? He's here, okay. Appreciate Barry coming tonight. He's our representative of the area and was a long-time sheriff, so appreciate his support. Also, I saw Mark Scott. Is Mark Scott still here? I see his hand. Mark has been a county commissioner for eons. I was with Mark the first day he said he was going to run the very first time. Did an excellent job. He's moving on, but we certainly want to acknowledge the excellent job that Mark has done over the years. Thank you, Mark.
All the folks, settle down. We're not quite done. Just a couple more minutes. We do have a special tonight, a fantastic special. Hot dogs, 2 for 1. The next special we have is maybe a special winner. We're going to do the raffle drawing right now. Folks, settle down, please. Move it, Linda.
We have $130 to give away tonight. So let's see who the lucky winner's going to be. I can't read.
Go see Sarah. You know who it is.
Number 863962.
Repeat.
The winning ticket is number 8.
We have it. Well, we have it right there. Thank you. Bring the ticket up. While Linda is taking care of that, I just want to thank you all for coming. We're going to close the meeting in a prayer in a moment. I just want to tell you 2 things. First of all, please stop by Ron Rothenberger's table over there. He's one of our sponsors, Rothenberger Insurance. Also, if you like this candidate's night tonight, next month we have the, thank you, Jim. Next month we have the county commissioners, the Superior Court judges were invited, and we may have some others as well. Is that correct, Ron? Right? Ron said yes. Now, running mayor candidates. Linda, close the meeting in prayer, please.
Lord, thank you so much for everybody coming here tonight, and we sure appreciate all the candidates coming. Lord, keep everyone safe going home tonight and guide them back here again next month. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you, folks. Drive safely. See you next month.